Good evening. Oh, sorry.
Right.
Good evening and welcome to PHP North West September. This evening we have Oliver Davies giving us a talk on Sculpin. He is a lead developer from, a lead software developer from Transport for Wales. And I'll hand you over to Oliver.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully I'm still coming through okay, sound-wise, video-wise. Thanks again for having me back. Always look forward to PHP North West again. So, and again, apologies if I always involved with PHP Southwest and South Wales. So I may end up using any one of those three interchangeably as we go through this talk, but hopefully we won't. This talk is building static websites with Sculpin. As we said, my name is Oliver Davis, and I'm OP Davis everywhere on Twitter and GitHub and Drupal.org and lots of other places. And I keep thinking to myself, I'm thinking whether I should change this to be sort of air quotes static websites, because they're not completely static in the way that you might expect as if you were writing just HTML and CSS-based sites. But there we go. For now, let's leave it as it is. So most people probably know me from my work in the Drupal community. I've been a Drupal developer and a Drupal specialist. My first full-time role was 2010. I'd been doing some Drupal work before then, building sort of websites and doing some freelance work. But tonight, yeah, we're here to talk about a different project called Sculpin. This is a project I first gave a talk on, I believe it was 2015 at Drupal Camp in Sunderland. And that talk was how to get test driving Twig with Sculpin. So it was just before the Drupal 8 release. And my thought process at the time was Twig was new to people in the Drupal community at that point. Drupal 7 wasn't using Twig at all. So I wanted something that I could learn Twig and YAML and some of the things without having to deal with some of the more larger overheads that the Drupal 8 was offering. So Sculpin is a static site generator. So it's a command line tool that you write files in Markdown and or HTML and or Twig. You run a command, it will compile everything together, outputs HTML for you at the end. So the end result is the same as if you were to write just flat HTML files and CSS by hand, but we do get some advantages to using a static site generator, particularly because we can use Twig for templating and also write content in Markdown or just HTML if you wanted to. Most of my blog posts, or no, all my blog posts are written in Markdown, so it seemed like a logical choice. And even when I was writing content inside the Drupal-based version of my site, it was using a Markdown module to convert everything into just HTML anyway. And Sculpin is built on Symfony's HTTP kernel and some other Symfony components. So this was also a good reason for me to look at using Sculpin, because it was familiar to me. It's written in PHP. I'd used Jekyll, I think another couple of site generators before this, which are written in Jekyll, it's written in Ruby, but I wouldn't really know how to go about extending that if I needed to. So being based in PHP and being based on Symfony, I can go and figure out how to extend it or change stuff if I need to, which I did later on. So I'm currently using this for my personal site. It's used, I think, Jekyll and all the versions of Drupal from 6 until now, and then Sculpin, and then Drupal 8 or Drupal 9, and then back to Sculpin again quite recently. I've used it for some client websites, so both my day job work and for freelance clients as well. The most recent one being they just needed some HTML prototypes before they started doing the theme development. So when their deliverable was just HTML files and CSS, But then I said, okay, just for me, I'm going to use the site generator so that I can use things like includes and template inheritance in Twig. Then I'll just give them the end files that it generates anyway. Or if they're building into Drupal 9, which is what this client is doing, my theory being that it should be easier to integrate Twig templates into Drupal directly if they wanted to go down that route as well. So I'm actually giving them the Twig and the HTML so they can sort of figure out what's going on there. I do have two client sites, actually 4 clients that they're using that are in production as well. So one, we lifted and shifted their existing content into Sculpin, again, just so we can use some functionality that Twig was providing, and another which they initially wanted what sounded like a quite large, complex Drupal build. They didn't really have the budget for that at the time, and they also needed to get things done really quickly. So I did it with Sculpin. It's hosted for free on Netlify because it's just a HTML and CSS site at that point once it's been generated. And they edit that site by logging into GitHub, changing files inside the GitHub UI. Netlify picks up those changes, runs Sculpin generate command, and pushes it back up to Netlify again. So they've essentially got free hosting and a very minimal MVP CMS using GitHub and Sculpin. And as I said previously, my thinking was to use YAML and Twig, which were things new to me back when I did the very first version of this talk a few years ago. Learn these things before Drupal 9, before Drupal 8 really got cemented for me. And also it was a good chance to learn some Symfony. So I've been watching Symfony casts and doing some Symfony projects since doing this, but I was quite keen to learn a bit more about the Symfony components that Drupal 8 was including as well as the framework in general. So installation, Sculpin these days is all using Composer. Some of the earlier versions, you download a file and you use that. Now it's recommended you Composer require Sculpin Sculptor. There are some skeletons that we can use as well. So there's an official blog skeleton that you can compose a create project from, and that will generate a new Sculpin-based blog, which is nice. I also have my own skeleton, which is a bit more minimal and a bit less opinionated. So it isn't a blog, but is a good starting point for any Sculpin-based site, actually. So we'll see a bit more about that later on. And it's a very simple folder structure. There's an app directory, and then there's a config directory inside there, and that's where all of our configuration lives. And then our source files live inside source. So by source files, I mean the HTML, the markdown, and the Twig templates all live inside that directory. Then once we run the command, we also have an output directory, which is where the compiled files go into as well. And these are versioned by the environment. So output underscore dev is the default. And then if you run a prod build of your output underscore prod, for example. So because it's a command line tool, we're going to run vendor bin Sculpin generate, and that will bring in those HTML and the CS and the HTML markdown and Twig, generate the HTML for you. But there are also some flags that we can use. So there's a built-in server, which will serve the files on port 8000 on localhost. We can say --watch, which will watch for changes and recompile the site and regenerate the site on every change. And as I mentioned, there are different environments as well. So if you want to run a production build, use it -m for production. I believe there's also one for --clean, which will also just delete the output directory before regenerating it, which could be quite helpful sometimes. So let's have a look at a file, a source file. So this is our home page. It's inside the source directory, and this is just index.mb. So it's an index markdown file. And this will generate an index.html file. So it takes the file name and uses that as the file name for the HTML. And you can see at the top of the file here, we have a YAML block, which is called front matter. And this is pretty common with static site generators. Jekyll and some others have it too. And this is here, just define metadata about this particular page. So this page is going to use the default layout. And it has a title, which is hello, and then the body of the page is hello world. So if we were to run Sculpin generate on this, we'd end up with something like this. So it's in our output_dev directory. It's index.html because our input file was index.md. And it's just going to take our body and make that a paragraph called hello world. So markdown in and twig in, HTML out, essentially what this all does. Configuration, as we said, lives inside the app config directory, and there's a sculpin_site.yaml file that we can place there, and that will have our site level configuration values in. So typically things like your site name, maybe the locale, whether you're probably going to be ENGB, menu links is one I use quite a lot. So yeah, here we've got home and about and the href values for those. We mentioned environments already, so we can have a different environment, different configuration file per environment. So we could have a Sculpin site_prod, and our URL is also going to be different for production compared to localhost. So we can just have a environment file for prod, and we can include that one. It will get included automatically when you run the generate with that particular environment name. And yeah, because it's YAML, it's just essentially a key value pairs. So we have a name, which is my talk, and then menu links and everything. So yeah, this was quite neat. Also, we do a lot of YAML these days, but back in 2015, like this was quite new to me. So, and then anything in the Sculpin site files, we get a magic variable here called site, and we can just use the double curly braces, or what I'll refer to as double curly braces from here in, just to output the name of that variable. So site.name to match the name here. So everything in our global site level is prefixed with site. So we've already seen some front matter. So here we've got a layout and a title, and this one's a draft. Draft is a cool Sculpin thing. So if you run a production environment build, anything that's in draft wouldn't get generated. So small front matter. Let's say we're going to add some tags to this blog post. This one is Drupal and PHP and Sculpin. So we can just use a YAML list here. We can say this one has tweets. Yes, it has tweets and foobar. So the point being that there's no particular convention or any sort of requirements here other than layout, which can be required, but not necessarily, and probably the title, but you're probably going to want to have a title. Yeah, anything else you can just keep adding. So I quite like this because it's really quick just to add new things. Whereas typically, if I was doing sort of Drupal site building project, I'd need to go and create a new content type and create new field names and do a lot of clicking around to generate this sort of architecture for how everything works. But this is, yeah, really quick to just add things into the front matter as and when we need to. So here's an example of how we could use that. So this is from my testimonials page. So inside that front matter, we have a key called testimonials, with a list of things. And these are just names and roles and people who've been nice enough to leave me testimonials on my website. So we define them all at the top of the page. And then inside the bottom half of the template, you can see here we have, we can use a twig for loop. And rather than using the site variable name here, this is a page level variable. So we can say page dot testimonials, and then just loop over them, output each name and roll everything in that way. So this is quite nice. Thinking back to the guy with the client with the gym website, we did a training session with him after it was done, and he was like, "Oh, how do I change the classes on the timetable?" And I think he was sort of expected to go in and start having to edit HTML and changing p tags and divs and everything. But the nice thing was this is quite a nice clear separation, at least in my opinion. So we had something similar to this, where the classes are at the top and they're grouped by day, and then each day, and then it's just a list. So it's like, oh, if I want to change the start time on this class, you just change it in the top half, or add a class, or remove a class, or remove a day. And it doesn't really need to change anything outside of the front matter at all. So yeah, for me, it's quite nice having that sort of separation of this is the data and this is the markup. So layouts, everything we've seen so far has been using layout default, but we can have multiple. This is the way I quite like to structure my layout. So layouts go inside a _ layouts directory inside source. So the underscore it's just showing it's an internal directory. So I quite like having one called app, which is just my top level application layout. This just has my outer structures, my HTML tags and head, and then the outer the body tags, but nothing inside the body. So typically I'll just have a twig block here. So again, we can make use of some twig functionality here, some features like adding defaults. So this is just lifted out of the Sculpin skeleton, my Sculpin skeleton. And we can use a twig block here. So we have a block called body. And then I have another template called default. And we can extend app here. We can add more things into that body block and add more blocks and everything. So this one I do just to keep things quite tidy. That you could have a separate layout per content type, or a separate layout per different page if you wanted to. So and the nice thing is, compared to having just a HTML site with 5 or 10 or 50 pages or X pages, each one you copy and paste in between, we can leverage functionality and features inside Twig, so we don't need to do that, and we can just customize things on a page by page or content type by content type basis. The other thing we can use, I use quite a lot, are includes, and there's sort of two reasons why I like using includes. One is for readability, and then also to reduce duplication. So in the top here, so this is taken from my blog post page. I have a little section that says about the author at the bottom. So I have an include file, so this lives in the _ includes directory, and called about author, which is a twig file. And then I can just pass it the variables that I want to pass it. So you don't need to do that. It will, the variable names will filter down, but I quite like being explicit. So I could say that I'm going to pass in an avatar variable and a work variable, and those will both come from site. So this just means, rather than having a post template with the template for a layout with everything, it's much easier. I'm just reading through and say, oh yeah, that's where the about author is. And generally, if I was writing something in Twig and I was going to have to put a comment there that says start of about author or end of about author, to me that's usually a good sign that there's probably an include there that I can move it into, just to keep things tidy. And then the other option is for things like links. So anywhere I'm usually having to do a for loop, or if I'm making a particular reusable section, then I'll move that into an include as well, just so that we're not repeating class names or markup in multiple places. So here we've got a menu link include, but just thinking the project I was doing at the moment has a sidebar block, and the title is different, and the text and the image is different. So I can have an include with the base sort of structure and the class names and the markup there, and I can just pass in the variables that will change. So the title, I can do that using with blocks. I can see that top example there. And I'm doing this, pointing at things on my screen that people can't see. But there you go. So I've mentioned content types already as well. This is another thing that's sort of being a very mostly Drupal focused person. Drupal has content types. It's building up its architecture. So we can do that in Sculpin too. Inside a file called Sculpin kernel, Sculpin _kernel.yaml inside the config directory. there's Sculpin content types. Post is enabled by default. So if you don't have posts, it will complain and say that there are no posts. You have enabled post. The post content type is enabled, but there are no posts. We can turn it off. But here you can see we were just making a new content type called projects. And then we can define a permalink. So project/slug titles. We'll take the name of the file name or the permalink from the front matter and use that as the path to the project in the confine through. There's also an implied layout here. So the name of the content type is project. So there will be a project layout that we can use unless you specify otherwise. And then we can access them in other files. So if we have a list of projects, so if I just building a portfolio site or something, in the front matter, we can just say use a list of content types. So we can say use projects, and similar to how we did before, we're just going to loop over them. But now, rather than using a site or page, we're going to use data. So they're sort of the three magic variables for this point. Data is the content type that we're putting in. So we can just loop over those again and just output the title, in this case, of each project. So I'd like to do a little bit of a demo now at this point. So I'm going to switch down to this workspace. So hopefully we can see that. And apologies, it's really warm, even though it's 7:30. It is really hot here. So I'm sweating a little bit, so I'm keep doing this. Okay, so let's see, where's my mouse? There we go. Okay, so basically what I have here is also a browser on the right hand side serving the website. It's localhost 8000. So this is just running the Sculpin generate command behind the scenes. Something I haven't talked about actually is I've built a small Docker image, which I'll show maybe at the end, that has a Sculpin and a Sculpin serve variation. So I could just say run just a Sculpin command inside a container, like generate, and have it do like a one-time thing, or we can use Sculpin serve and it will watch and generate behind the scenes. So that's the output that we're seeing at the top here, is that. Let's just see a little bit about the structure we've got here. Okay, so we've got our, so this is the Sculpin skeleton project. So maybe let's show you that quickly first. This one's mine. So yeah, it's literally just a very minimal Sculpin thing. So there's a name, a locale, but nothing else. Sculpin site prod pulls in the default one. Let's see, there is a kernel. So posts is disabled here because we don't not necessarily always going to have posts if it's not a blog. And then we have just one source file, which is what we can see, which is the hello world file that we can see. And we have our two templates that we've already sort of seen on the slide. So that's what we're seeing here. So that's all that it's outputting right now with these things. So yeah, you can see the same thing. And then you've got output dev that just has the point left over from what I was doing before. So it's fine, we'll get generated in a moment. So that's where our HTML lives. So what we can do, first of all, is build a little site here. So at the moment, we can see it's got Sculpin demo in the title. So if we open the Sculpin site, let's say we're going to change this to Northwest. We can see at the top of the file here now it's regenerated, which is done pretty quickly actually, which is good. And then we can see get requests come in. So now we can see that the site name is changed here. So if which just to view this, now our title has changed. So first thing done. Let's see, menu links. That's something I quite like to use usually. So menu links. Let's just make one called title home. href just goes to the home page. And then let's have a talks page. And let's go to talks. Things are a little bit slow here because I'm sharing and everything. So, right. So now we need to use those somewhere. So let's do that inside our default template. So we can say for link inside menu. So we should see loop over these. Let's just do link. Sorry. I think I said name. We'll find out in a second. Title. I seem to use name and title interchangeably at different points. Site.menu, site. Helps if you name your variables properly. Okay, so we have home and talk. So there are two links that we've put. So what we can do now is maybe let's wrap those in a link each. And because these are objects, we can just use the dot notation. So link dot spelling. Okay, so now we've got our two links. Let's see if I open the page, it'll also be easy to see. One goes to /, one goes to talks. So the advantage here being that if you want to add another menu link, or we have 10 or 20 or 50 menu links at some point, we can just add it into this main Sculpin site file, and it will regenerate them. Because we're using a loop, we've only got that markup once. And so again, if we wanted to change something in that, another class, we want to use list items rather than just A's, we could do that in one place and then have it regenerate over time. Okay, so we've added a menu link here for a talks page. So let's add the talks page. If we go into something I quite like doing is having a page as content type. I haven't done that here, so we'll just put it into the source directory itself. It's a root level. Let's make this a twig file. And say talks. And let's get this allowed. And for now, let's just put it in talks. So we should now hopefully have a talks page, which we do. I'm going to very quickly, let's wrap this now. Seems like the semantic thing to do. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of a separation here. That's a bit better. Okay, cool. So now we have two pages instead of just the one page, but we do have this, so we got the advantage that they both inherit from the same base templates, which is nice. Let's do that a little bit more. Talks. So let's see. What we could do is back in that template, actually, let's use that title. So page.title. So here's our page title. And let's just wrap that inside a H1. So we should have a H1 with talks. On this one, we should have nothing because we haven't specified a title. Okay. So now we have different H1s based on the page, which is what we'd expect. But again, the nice advantage being, if we wanted to add, not that we've got anything at this point, but if we want to add sort of text Excel, if you're doing Tailwind-based classes, so we don't have any styling because we haven't got Tailwind installed, but we could do that here, and then that will also filter down to this one here, and they both get the text. We need to change it in one place. We don't need to go through every page and change it the way we would if we were doing literally separate files for this. Okay, if we're continuing with this idea of talks, what we should do is have a talks content type. And let's see, we need permalink, which I always forget how to do, so I'm going to copy and paste it. So all of the talks are going to have talks / name of the talk. Let's just review our structure here again. Just reload this so we can see. We're going to need a directory, so source talks. Again, because it's the name of a content type, we need to underscore it so it knows that it's into there. So we have talks. I think that's right. Just double check whether we do need to actually underscore them. Yeah, pretty sure we do. So let's add some talks. So let's do it this way. So let's do Sculpin.md. This one is static size with Sculpin. Again, because we don't have a talks layout at this point, it will assume that it's because it's a talk content type, it will use a talk layout, which we don't have yet. So let's specify default explicitly. So hopefully we should now have Sculpin. That's interesting. It's also got this cache from earlier on. Yeah. Remove that. Live demos. Let's just start this up again. Okay, that's what I was expecting to say, just an empty page. And now we're into the sneak peek of where we're going with this. Okay, so now we have a talk Sculpin, and hopefully we should just refresh that again. Okay, that's what I was hoping to see earlier on. Yeah, this must have cached from earlier on or something. So we have our main index HTML, our talks index.html, and then our talk Sculpin index.html. Okay, so let's do a Tailwind MD. Let's just pull in the Sculpin one for now. So these are all talks that I've done previously, in case anybody was wondering. And then let's do also one. Just took a screenshot. Okay, so hopefully we should have 3 talks. Just refresh the tree again. Don't usually have this sidebar open, but I thought it would just be easier for everybody to see what's going on. If we can see that. So now we have 3 talks. So we should be able to go to any of these, test, it's okay. So we've now got several pages happening here. Whew. Some talks. Okay. So now we have talks. Let's add them to the talks page. So what we can do is we can use another for loop. So we can say for talk in data talks is getting it from a content type. Just close this. And let's just do talk.title. So generating. We still don't get anything here, partly because we're on the wrong page. So talks, but also need to include use talks. Okay. So there's our 3 talks. So let's just grab that into the UL. And then put this in R. And just do the same thing again, and just make this link here. What that shortcut is, if I keep keep pressing it, then okay, that's fine. So we can also do talk.url. This is another little magic variable that we get access to, but we didn't define a URL explicitly for each of these, but there is one by default. We can override it if we wish, but for the sake of this, we won't do that. So each talk is now shown on the talk page. You can click through, you can build this, so you can view each one. So next thing, let's add the talk layout, because I think we're going to need to do something there. So that'll be nice, because then we can get rid of that layout implicitly. So inside the layouts directory, we can make a talk twig, which is going to expect anyway, because it gets it from the name of the content type. And we're going to extend the default one. And we can add here a block. So let's make a new content bottom, and then just my Drupal block admin hat on. Your content top, content bottom, content middle, sidebar left, sidebar right. So we can just make one of those. So now we're customizing the layout per content type. So default doesn't have the content bottom one, but the talk one does. So actually, in theory, we should go now and delete these, because don't. It should use the talk one. And let's just make sure that is loading. No, we're not showing up. Probably need to add it into the default one. Okay, so there's our content bottom. So we have a default one, default empty one inside the default, and then we can add stuff inside of it in the talk type. So that's great. We've been able to clear up that a little bit more. We can customize things now based on whether it's a talk page or not. So let's take this a step further. So usually, if you just go to my site here, which is sort of what we're replicating, we have a title and we have some descriptions. Let's not worry about that for now, but we have events here. So this is something typically, at least when I was doing the Drupal versions of the site, I'd have a field collection, or I'd have paragraphs or something in there. So this is really quick. I can just go in here and just go talks, Sculpin. I keep opening it on the wrong side for some reason. There we are. So in this case, this talk has multiple events. So each event, events is just a list, and each one has a name, a location, and the date, and then URL and things. So this, I've given this talk three times. So once for Southwest work. So that's fine. So nothing is going to show up here because it's all inside that YAML front matter bit at the top of the page. So, but what we can do is make use of that content bottom. I'll say region again, just because so it's picking this sort of terminology. Whew. Okay, it's warm. So what we can do here, we get access to the page variable. So page.events events variable. Actually, I think we can do this as well. Don't know actually. I'll find out. Yes, we can just dump them as well. That's quite useful. But yeah, what we can do then is not every talk will have events, at least in this setup. So what we can do if not events is empty, which I believe is the right. I always get that slightly confused as well. Back there. So let's just set events for now. So let's just see. So this one has events. This one does not have events because we haven't added any. But that's fine. So because we've done this check, we can do the same thing again. And let's just make a list of events, shall we? Each one will have for events. Okay, my typing is terrible apparently this evening. I'm not sure why. Because we know we've got events, we've already done that check, so we can say that we've got a list now. We're not going to end up with an empty list for some reason. What we can then do is just loop over each event and then build up our list item programmatically. So I believe we said title. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it was name. Yes, it was name. Interchangeable keys again. Okay, so again, because these are just objects, we can just dot notation it and get our event name out. So the other thing we could do is say based on URL. So we get this again for the ones that have a URL. This one doesn't because it's not on Meetup or anything, conveniently. These ones have links to websites or something that we could use. So what we could do for this is paste that in for now. And we can use another close this sidebar. Okay. Going. Okay, so we can use an if statement now based on whether or not there's a URL. So we can say if the event has a URL, we can make a link. Otherwise, just display the name. So the ones that have links on them are now links, and the one that doesn't, of course. So each one also has a date. So let's put the date in here. And again, because it's Twig, we can use the date filter. So if we didn't have that, there, then we'll just get the timestamp of the day. So because I guess because I put them in a certain format, or because I haven't specified them as strings, it translates them into timestamps. So what we're going to do here is display them in a more human readable format. So 7th of September, which is today, of course. So again, we can really sort of see some of the power of Twig here by extending blocks, setting variables, checking if things are set or not, looping over them and building up this sort of data structure quite nicely. And then last thing, maybe for this, let's reorder them. So here I've got the newer ones, or the most recent ones at the top. So what we could do in this case is just say reverse, I believe, would work. put them at the top there. So you've got the newest one at the top. And that probably would be okay because it's I put them in that certain order. But what we could also do is do a sort, which I believe we can do something like A, B, a date. So you want to put the date to the top. Is that right? Let's see. It's built. Oh, yeah, that's the same thing. So if let's change this around, then yeah, it's going to reorder them. So we're ordering these now based on the day, on the date of movement. So yeah, just for the sake of it, if you were to then sort of change this and order them by the title, we could order them by the title if we wanted to, which is, oh, maybe you can't do less than title, actually. That would be a bit silly. Yeah, hopefully from there we've got some idea of how, actually quite powerful this little system can be. And then interestingly as well, this is now just HTML. So if we just do a refresh, everything inside this output dev directory, this is HTML, this is HTML, this is HTML. So if we take a look maybe at this template, it looks a bit messy. It's doing all the looping, and we could accommodate for that inside the template if we wanted to add spaceless or get rid of the white space on loops. We can see here it's made the list and it's made a separate list item for each one. Let's just, for the sake of it, maybe again, if we are so maybe doing bold text squared. I quite like Tailwind CSS, which we haven't noticed. And this is actually a good point. When I've done the Tailwind talk about, oh, how do you deal with having all these classes everywhere? Like they're inside a loop for part of it. So like there's only one instance of that string of classes anywhere. So even though we can see them in the markup here, if I to view source again. Yeah, so even though we can see it 3 times here or 10 times or 50 times, in the twig, it's only ever in one place. So I can change it in one place and have it update all the places. Same as if we're using an include. If we've got an include for a block, for example, that we're using in multiple places, we could just, change it in one place and do it. I hadn't planned to do this bit, but let's quickly show an include. I'm not sure how we're doing for time because I've lost the time. But yeah, let's say if we want to move just this nav, something I'll usually do is have so we make our includes directory. So we need that to exist first. Just source includes. Let's make a nav bar. And we can see the include here. Template navbar is not defined. Just so it's a nice red arrow at the top here. Now I've deviated from the script. Now we start getting the messages. So let's see. We have an includes directory. I think what the thing is, sometimes I need just to give it a restart. I don't know if this is because of Docker or whether it's let's give that start. Sometimes I find editing config files will cause it to be restarted as well. So it could be Docker, it could be. There's our navbar. So let's move everything from inside here, and let's put it into that navbar. And usually, again, what I like to do just to keep things, you'll see that it will work and it will just, the variables will just filter through. What I quite like to do is just some links site I'm just being a little bit explicit about what actually gets. So we're trying to do more of a position. Yeah, that doesn't work. So that should hopefully not working. Yeah, so I got like doing this just to be a little bit explicit about what it is it's actually doing. That's everything from a demo perspective. Yeah, if anybody wants to see anything else, let me know at the end. Wow, we're a little bit over time, sorry. I'd just like to speak a little bit about how to extend Sculpin. Just to come back to my earlier sort of thought, to try and do something like this for me in Ruby or some other sort of static site generator in a different language that I wouldn't really know how to do. Again, I can figure out how to do this in a PHP Symfony based system. So the Sculpin kernel file that we saw before, where he specified the content types, we can also specify services and parameters here. So this is a snippet from my site here. I've got a custom twig extension that's counting up the talks that I've given. So the number of talks that it shows isn't hard-coded, it's done dynamically based on those events that we saw, and some counting and looping. It's making use of twig extension, as we can see, to add in a custom function, but also I'm using things here that I'm familiar with. So I'm using Illuminate collections from Laravel, so I quite like collections and that sort of pipeline approach. I'm pulling in PHP units. I'm testing the talk extension, testing the counting from the talk collection that I have. So again, I can just, this is very similar to me if I was doing this in a 888 or a 999 module or Symfony DI container config. It's essentially exactly the same. So I can do this. I do this for services that are sort of specific to my project. So talk extension, I'm only going to use myself. Alternatively, you can write separate bundles. So they are very similar to writing Symfony bundles. It's installed on packages. I can install it through Composer. I can Composer require the package bundle name. And there's another file here we haven't talked about yet. That's Sculpin kernel.php. And here we can just add the additional bundles that we want to use. So for my site, I have a markdown filter that I can use. So this additional bundle adds that functionality through Twig, and I can just, I suppose, require it, add it into this file, and then it's available. And I've used that in a few projects, so that made sense for me to extract it out rather than just keep it in one project. So that's the end of the slides. There are some references here. So the Sculpin website is sculpin.io. The talk demo that we just went through, I've version that on GitHub from earlier on today. My website is open source and available to look at on GitHub, which has the custom talk extension and some other things in there as well. And the Docker image that I mentioned, if people want to have a look at that. And the website itself also is there. There's some blog posts there on PHP and Sculpin and Drupal and Tailwind CSS and Ansible and lots of fun stuff. But, yeah, does anybody, I don't know how we're doing for time. I don't know if anybody's got any questions or anything else they'd like to see. I don't mind doing a bit more ad hoc demoing if people would like.
No, we're good for time. Like if there's anything you want to demo, feel free to go ahead.
I haven't planned anything else demo-wise.
That's absolutely fine as well.
I can show you a little bit more about what we're doing here if you want. I said my site, it's yeah, so this is the front end for my site, but the actual site itself is on GitHub as well. So if you go into here, maybe we can see a little bit of extending of the custom stuff. So yeah, there's a few more files in here than what we've got on the demo, but let's see what we can look at. So we've got the Sculpin kernel file, which I'm pulling in those additional bundles like we just saw. So I'm pulling in also a just embed bundle, which I haven't used for a while. Probably could get rid of that actually. I have the prod one here. This is fine. It's all open source anyway. I'm not going to show it. I just thought, oh, there's no keys in here or there. But if there was, everybody would see them on GitHub anyway. So here's an example of where I'm setting different things based on the environment. So when I'm doing a deploy, it's running a production environment build. So on here, I quite like I split these things out by Drupal.org name, and then using this sort of percent syntax to sort of inherit from there and put there. But plausible, so the domain here I've set to be null because I don't want the plausible is analytics. So I don't want to track analytics locally. So the domain is null. But on production, so on the live site, I want it to be a domain. So I'm setting that domain here. And then if you have a quick look, I'll just do a quick search for plausible. Plausible. So I'm using a partial. So underscore partials and underscore includes are the same. And then just do a check. If there is a domain, add in this extra code. And this was quite nice actually. Again, like to try and if I was trying to do this for the Drupal site or something else, like I had to go, oh, is there a module? Do I have to do it this way? Here I can just add it in really easily. Let's see. I can show that kernel file maybe. So I've got some additional things. I've got pages and posts and talks. Where is an old version of that file maybe? Let's see. That's what I was looking for here. So I've got a service, I've got that talk extension in here, which is tagged as a twig extension. So if I open up the talks twig file, you can see here, like I have given variable name, number of talks. So this is coming from that custom extension we talked about. So get past talk count. If I open that up, this is the twig extension. So the same as write a twig extension in Symfony or write a twig extension in Drupal. I can extend literally the same classes and write extension in the same way. I can use the same things I'm familiar with. So I've got a talk collection here. This just extends the Illuminate collection thing. So yeah, like this is the same. Like I probably have no idea how to do this with Ruby. If I was doing this with Jekyll or trying to think of some of the other static side journeys I used. I'm not picking on Jekyll, but it's like PHP is what I know mostly. So yeah, to be able to do this for me is a lot easier doing it this way than it would be in trying to figure out how to do it in something else. And yeah, I've got tests in here as well. So I've got a talk extension test. So I'm able to run a check, like it returns the for, like I'm able to count the number of talks and everything in here. So again, I probably wouldn't know how to do this in Ruby very easily or something else. So yeah, there's a definite familiarity there because I'm used to writing these things. So if there's anything else interesting that's worth showing. Yeah, I do try and make use of partials as we saw. So also in this one, I have done a pages content type, just to keep things a little bit cleaner, just to group them all together here. Yeah, doing the similar sort of thing with app and base. I've also got one for I think base extends app, and at some point I've changed it to default. So I think default extends base. Yeah, just literally, but backwards compatibility, I guess, for there. But yeah, I'm able to make. Again, it's just nice to have this this available. We can call the parent block the same as you would with any other twig template. Talks we've already sort of seen. Putting in different include. Again, there's no other benefit really of splitting these things out into includes other than it just makes this much easier to read. So I can just scan through this page. Okay, we're in the content mapper block. There's the slides, there's the video, there's the events, which I'm doing with the reverse here. I should probably do a sort. And then, yeah, here's the about author stuff. And yeah, it's yeah, add company work name and URL. This was quite cool. So yeah, just yeah, actually my job title and the company I work for and the URL is stored as settings in here. So if I open up the site settings again, nope, that's the other thing. Fig, could have done that keyboard. Apologies. Yes, I've got this work section here, so I can say this is the company, this is the name, company's URL, and the role. And then if I change jobs, then I can just go in and change it here, and it'll filter through everywhere else. So I've got a section here and say, yeah, add the link in here. But in the previous version, I'd changed jobs in between. So I wondered whether I can just do a search for work dot something. Yeah, there's work dot role here. So about author, in fact, which says, there we go, this section here. Well, there is lead software developer at Transport for Wales. Like in the actual thing here, he is a role at work company. So again, like, if I change role or I change company or something, I can just change it in one place, and when I regenerate it, it'll filter down everywhere. Which, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's some fun stuff in here. There are some examples of other sites as well on the let's see, community section here. Yeah, there are sites here of people. I mean, it's not particularly active as a development. I know there's a big push to make it PHP 7 compatible. I go in and sort of triage the repo a little very often, but there are bug fixes and things made, but there's no big features at the moment being rolled out. But I might try and change that and get a bit more involved myself. But yeah, there's examples of people using it on there, and some of these are open source as well. Some of Bo Simonson, who was the original creator of this. Yeah, some of his sites are linked in here as well. I think mine should be in here somewhere. Yeah, it's trying to think whether I can show the thing. Yeah, why not? He's written a recommendation or testimonial for me, so it's known. I've built this anyway. But this is the other side that I did. So if I just pick the timetable bit for an example. So this is what I was saying, that like all the data part is all done inside this front matter at the top. So classes by day, and then we've got a list. They're all start, title, end, day, and then like at the bottom there's a little bit of intro text at the top here. It's like he only needs to change the client needs to change like the top half of this file. Everything else here, which arguably would be the overwhelming part, and then just looping over these things. Like he never has to touch this part of the file, because this is sort of the logic presentational part. The actual data bit is up here. So yeah, that was quite nice, I think, actually. I think he was quite pleased with that. Yeah, it's quite a nice little system. Yeah, I'm running out of things to demo now. I think were there any questions from the floor, from the chat, from anything else anybody would like me to demo?
I do have a couple of questions. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions from the chat so far, unless anyone else has any really quick ones. My first one, if you haven't used a static site generator before, and you're new to Sculpin, you're new to Jekyll, you're new to Hugo, like, would you recommend someone to go try Sculpin first, or would you recommend they did their first site with Jekyll
That's a good question. I suppose it depends, yeah, because Hugo is one I've used before. Gatsby, I guess, comes into that sort of category as well. I think it sort of depends on the, like for me, being a PHP developer, I'd probably say Sculpin or Jigsaw, which is sort of a Laravel based one. Um, then yeah, because like even when I was writing, when I had the original version of the site that was built in Jekyll, I don't think I was ever writing any Ruby. Like I'm still writing YAML for configuration. I'm still doing front matter in the same way, which is YAML. And then actually in that case, it's using is it Ginger 2 or is it using Liquid or something? Like again, like another templating language, which I think was actually from the same repo from I think there was some point where they all sort of came out the same, or at least they were inspired by, right? So at least that should be all familiar for everybody. So yeah, it meant for 90% of the cases, I reckon it wouldn't matter whether it's PHP or Ruby or anything under the hood actually. But yeah, I did think at some point I don't want to have to go in and update the number of talks I've given every time. So it would be nice to have it count them for me. And then if I can write tests for those, the better. So for me, it seemed like a sort of a logical choice.
Yeah, it's when you wanted to actually start add your own functionality that you need that you went, actually having this in PHP is more beneficial to myself.
Yeah, I think so. And just some of the functionality, like in this case, a twig or liquid or ginger, just having that ability to do these things like include other partials, do loops, do conditionals, is quite powerful, I think, rather than having to have different templates that all sort of slightly deviate from each other in different ways.
How's the community with Sculpin? I know that there is a bit of a community with some of the other static site generators, and people have like created modules and plugins and whatnot. How is that with Sculpin? Is there much of a community going on?
I think there sort of is, but it's not really, like I said, it's not really like there is the Get Sculpin Twitter handle. There used to be a mailing list. That's not really active, I don't think, anymore. But this sort of is, we're sort of tucked away, I guess. I think because it's gone through a few different hands maintainer wise, maybe some like that's caused a little bit of a, I think, oh, it's me. Yeah, maybe that's had something to do with it. I wouldn't say it's super active, but then also I'd probably say it's mostly quite stable. Um, there are plugins like the ones I wrote. There are some others I came across on packages and other places, but yeah, it would be quite nice to sort of have everything maybe be pulled together a bit more as a thing. There was like a Sculpin organization that was sort of set up. Like it was someone was sort of responsible for doing docs and they tried to sort of put together a little team. That was a while. I'm not sure what anything really sort of came of that, but I would like to see it so maybe be kickstarted again if possible a bit more. Yeah, I do get retweets in like the Get Sculpin account for my stuff, so I know that's Kevin. I think is the one sort of looking after that. The most stuff I've probably seen actually is maybe this isn't maybe so much about the community side of things, but there are I'd say more of like the code sort of thing. But there is like the actual Sculpin thing is being sort of updated and maintained, but like the blog skeleton is being more recent and some other things on here as well. But yeah, it might be nice to see maybe I was thinking about maybe doing a push towards PHP 8, and I think it's Symfony 3 or 4. I think it's I was looking using Pest for the tests, but it was one version below what Pest required. So I was thinking of putting maybe doing some PRs or doing some investigation there. So maybe that would kickstart the community side again. Maybe in like a Discord or yeah, I'm not sure. Do people use IRC? I've not used IRC for quite a while, but maybe we could do like a Discord or a Slack group or something. That might be a good idea.
I believe IRC is still used, but yeah, no, it's good to see that there's it's active and there's people contributing, and yeah, if there's enough of people contributing, then a community can start, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, unless we have any other last minute questions, I will end the stream. So I think that's it.
Cool.
Right, for everyone on Facebook, have a good evening.